You know, I'm not gonna lie, this has gotta be one of the weirdest reviews I'm gonna have, because there's a lot of things to talk about with this, namely near the end of me just babbling on here. But, regardless, welcome to Goosebumps HorrorTown playthrough. Tonight we're gonna be taking a look at the review to the Monster Blood series. So, why don't we get back into the business of things and just take a look at what is this event all about. Finally, the forest was cut down and left without care, turned this town's promenade into a junkyard. Mr. Dawes didn't waste any time by bringing back the dirty, abandoned Darkville chemicals plant that was once abandoned some time ago. And what was once a famous toy store is now nothing more than a junkyard filled with chemical waste. Meanwhile, some new pranksters decided to come into town during the quarantine lockdown. They've decided to start a prank war against Dustin as they discover a new slime toy that has strange powers. Does it seem to be best timing to be excited about April Fools? Or maybe it does. Some key notes to note about this event. This is the first April Fool's event and the return of the Dead House elements as well as others, but well, this is mainly just chemical plants, so I'm gonna count it as a sequel to the House of the Dead, per se. This is based off of the Monster Blood trilogy of sorts because of the spawns that we have gotten thus far. I'm going to count it as all three of them together. And the event started April 1st and ended May 5th. I thought I said the 4th at 8 PM Eastern Standard Time, but they might have added an extra day since the last time I said it. But regardless, it's close enough. So, is the Monster Blood a great fun product to prank around for fun? Or is it a toxic substance that's made to destroy the town? Well, time to find out with taking a look at what made the event good. I will say at first most, the event story was actually pretty interesting and fun at the same time. It was interesting to see Carly Beth actually being added into the fray, and what was interesting about this is that we actually got to see her interact within the event. This was probably an improvement of seeing that if bringing back certain event characters and stuff back into the fray, they started to add them within the story to kind of make sense of why they're being included back. So that is a nice feature to see, as well as I would say that it's kind of staying true with the book's intention of the Monster Blood trilogy of sorts, so I give it just that. Also, the whole April Fool's thing is somewhat of an interesting idea that I have yet seen in a game, like a game, mobile, stuff like this before, so yeah, it was the first time they tried it, and I think they did pretty good when it comes to the whole plot-wise. This event gave a lot of time. In fact, this was probably the longest event we had thus far within the game series overall. And frankly, this was one of the aspects I looked at of why this event may be where it would be rated, just because of the fact that they gave you a lot of time. So yes, some of the drop rates and things like that were kind of a difficult in sense of like, oh, there's only one character that does this and iffy kind of thing, but they gave you lots of time, like almost 5 weeks worth of stuff to do. So really, I can't really fault the game developers on that one. I might as well include this as a positive, but previous event items and prizes came back for this event with currency in mind. Like, if you saw my playthrough of the Dead House, you'd know how much of a pain in the, butt it was to get this grand prize. But hey, with the low price of 7,000 of things, if I remember it correctly, I can't think of it at the moment on the top of my head, you too can get this prize item without having to shoot an arm for a leg. The more expensive item, though, was a unique one that was previously only available within the bundle. So, seeing this is a positive because that means that we might get items returning back again in the form of, like, unique items, I would say, that we might get them back later on at a later date. So, that may be something to think about long term. The grand prize was an interesting one, to say the least. I wasn't expecting to see this as the grand prize, but hey, it was a Monster Blood related, and I thought it was pretty cool. It's funny because this kind of connects it back to the old Ward's house that was from the last event we dealt with, and it's funny how they reused that house and then just threw Monster Blood in there. And, you know, with Dawes being involved with the storyline, it's pretty apparent that perhaps he just took the house and just threw the stuff in there and it just overflowed the house entirely. But yeah, you know, I like this design of the house. It's a bit small, I would say, like, compared to how it was, but, you know what, it doesn't look that bad compared to other places, like other buildings, so I'll give it a pass. Last but not least, I have to add this as my more positive experience, is seeing that we actually have two well-known characters available to be purchased for freemium currency. This is the first time in a long time we got to see characters actually be made available for freemium players, because most of the time it was just premium only, which sucks. And to be fair, we've always got, like, oh yeah, we got the spawn scenes and stuff like that, but I never really counted them because, honestly, you don't really see them walking around. But this time you got to see them do so. So we got, like, Cuddles and Trigger here, which are two animal buddies that I really did enjoy. But I will talk more about them in a bit when it comes to this next part. So, we're about to move on to the negatives, but before I do, there were some I decided to disclude from this list for obvious reasons, but I might as well bring them up here. The first was that they added a new refresh button when it came to the Satyr's pawn shop, meaning that no longer are you able to just refresh everything and wait for 2 minutes. Now you have to watch an ad, and then it resets everything for you. It's a bit of a nuisance, but I don't see it as a huge negative. Yeah, it's inconvenience, I would say, but you can still refresh the other items particularly, and I haven't really used the refresh all feature at all in my personal playthrough, so I don't really going to count it as such. The other potential drawback that I'm going to disconclude is the fact that, as we saw, Ellie no longer was available for the event moving forward. We've had previously the characters from past events be useful for 2 events moving forward, like, you know, first 2 events and then they're discontinued. But it seems like they were only used for the 1 event and then they're discontinued. I'm wondering if this is going to happen again with the Ward twins. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case, but it seems like now they're kind of litigated to that only being useful for like 1 event extra. So at least there's still that. It is a bit of a downer, but I wouldn't say it's a really game changer or a destruction of the whole mess, as it were. I wouldn't say it's much of a huge issue since crafting wasn't too terrible. I mean, long, yes, but they gave you plenty of time, so I wouldn't consider that as a negative per se. But hey, it's just my thoughts. Alright, now that we got those 2 out of the way, let's talk about the things that did make it on the list of bad controversies. So let's start with the less offensive to the more offensive. So I'm going to include this here, but I haven't dealt with this myself. But during my going through on the Medium forums, both on Reddit and Facebook in particular, I've noticed a lot of players were reporting items disappearing a lot more than usual. Meaning that items of like, oh, I had peanut butter, and then all of a sudden it just disappeared. I've had this experience before in the past, but I haven't seen this happen in my particular game. It might have happened without me knowing it, but I can't confirm, to say the least. Now, normally, it's to be expected there's bugs every here and there, but to see a constant of this popping up means that something else was pretty much bad. So this is why I'm going to add it as low as it is, because it is somewhat of an annoying nuisance. But I've seen a player who watches my videos here had an issue with it. I told him to contact support. They managed to refund them with the items in particular, so no harm there. If you didn't have the twins from the last event, the peanut butter and the eggs are a bit of a grind to get, because the only 2 characters are able to do that are Lucy and Dustin. Now, these 2 items in particular, I think the peanut butter was the worst offender of this one, but again, although it is a nuisance that you only have like one character that can do this thing and it's like a 4-hour-ish task, it's not as bad because of the amount of time they give you to try to get everything going. I can't say from my experience I had an issue with getting the item. I got it, like, again, I beat in this event like within a week or two, so really, I'm sure if I didn't have the characters in mind, if I kept on grinding it like normal, I would have eventually got it, and I eventually would have played the game a little bit more longer. But that's just my thing. I am going to put this here because then it is a nuisance, so there you go. Okay, so you remember when I just recently said that I was going to talk about some negatives when it comes to the 2 new characters that we got for free? Well, here they is. The fact that there wasn't much quest to go on with them. There's only like 2 items that they are able to drop, which are very common items, and they have no animation at all. The only animations you got to see them do is that of the spawn scene, but there's no way to get said spawn scene, so really, all they do is just walk and they go to a building and then they just hide. So that is a negative that, although yes, now we have walking characters, it feels like they're no better than just the spawn scenes at this point. I am going to leave it in this kind of middle ground because on the one hand, it is wish that there was a little bit more with them. On the other hand, I can't really say I'm really too in depth with not having animations for these characters, because even I myself am trying to think what would be best for these 2. I can't think of anything, but maybe down in the road they might add more to these characters, but we'll have to wait and see. Oh boy, we get to go to the more devious of them all. The last event's books left in this update without warning and without anyone knowing of such a thing. I thought it was strange at first when I saw the items in particular didn't drop any scare scenes, and now I know why. The fact that the book just disappeared out of nowhere, I'm kind of glad I ended up getting the item as quick as I did. And I can see why people are upset by this, because they weren't expecting the book to disappear. In fact, I was under the impression that things would stay like this update / like what happened to Valentine's Day. But, oh no, not this one. It just disappeared at all. Hence why I said back in the March review that this might change due to the profit of certain ideas. I'm going to wait and see near the end of the year to decide whether or not it still holds up to where it is, or should I bring it back down because of what just happened. But yeah, this was negative, I would say, the more or less particular. And surprise, surprise to nobody at all, let's talk about the worst aspects of this event. The Rebel Without a Cause bundle, aka the Andy and Carly Beth bundle that's only exclusive to buy controversy. Yes, when I didn't see Carly Beth or Andy in the store, I immediately thought that there was something strange about it. My contact told me that they would be coming in the next week in the bundle per se, and I thought, oh, okay, so they're going to have the bundle be like, they're gonna put them in within the bundle so that way they can alleviate that one problem I thought they were going to solve. Nope, turns out that they are just exclusivity deal. And the biggest reason why this in particular was such a pain in the one in particular why this is such a pain, not really much for Carly but for Andy in particular, is because of the lock behind a paywall for the book. So if you really wanted that egg dino thing from the prize book, you gotta pay for Andy. So not only did you pay for Ian, but now you pay for Andy too. So that makes people very happy. So when you that always makes people so happy to know when you go ahead and tell them you gotta pay more than one thing in order to get everything in prize. It's one thing to have people go and support you as a developer. It's another to force people to pay you. And this in particular is one of the things I have to agree upon when it came to people. This was something I cannot agree with. Please, moving forward, do not put characters behind paywalls, right? Have them in bundles, fine. Have them be priced like Walter ridiculous price. Fine, whatever. It's stupid, but fine. Have it so that it's available. Don't just do this, you know? So, that's the whole keynotes, long and skinny of it, with what I thought. And here's where the difficult part comes in, and my, one of the things why people may or may not like what I'm going to be doing here. And I'm going to be talking about why I've decided to do it the same way. With how bad the lock behind a character paywall it was, I had to look at it as simply as this. As you probably have noticed with what I've said for goods and bads, a lot of them were very inconvenienced, but not really game-breaking or terrible in a sense. I would probably argue the disappearing items would be a problem, especially if it's the peanut butter, because that would be a pain. But regardless of everything that's being offered, I have to look at it and go, okay, is Andy required, like, do you get an advantage with Andy? You kind of do, but can you get everything without having her? You can. Okay. Does Carly Beth have anything that can be available? She does help with the novelty shop, but other than that, no. She doesn't drop any items, so she really doesn't need to be there. And then I look at is the prize book worth it? In my honest opinion, no. No, it's not. It's not really Monster Belt related. It's kind of cool. Maybe a bit like an Easter type of fool, and I get what they were kind of going with here, but I don't think it's much of a thing for me, in my opinion. A lot of people might say, I really wanted that egg, and I'm pissed I didn't get it. I understand that. For me, personally, I look at it and go, yeah, no. I mean, even I think it's a bit of an eyesore. Maybe in the future update, when they have dinosaurs, it might fit in, but as of now, it's just there. So, looking at this, I also look into consideration. I think one of the other big reasons why this event got so negatively pressed has to do with the situation we're currently in right now. I can't specify because of YouTube's whole robot looking for certain keywords, but currently we're in a lockdown procedure, and some people are unfortunately off of work due to this. And because of that, there's no real profits coming in, like reasonable profits coming in, so there's no expendable cash. So that means you get to a point like this, trying to go, alright, I have nothing to do, so I might as well play my favorite game, and then I'll go, oh, well, sorry, no, sorry, you gotta pay. People don't really have a good reaction to that, and especially since you look at other mobile games, and they've actually done positive stuff where they try to go, okay, look, for this time only, we're going to give you this type of thing to kind of give you guys a break, because we all know that we're in this whole thing, staying home together type of deal. And I don't think the game did that here. Now, I don't know how they could have changed everything, because this was probably preset, but I would hope that they at least fix the problems with whatever comes next for this update, whatever that might be. I mean, I know what it is, but you know, I'm hoping that they actually fix the issues that is brought up here, and hopefully this will be the only worst event of this year. Let's just hope that's the case, okay? So far we are into 3, and this is the worst one, so it's not that terrible, but it is pretty bad. Right, so here comes where people will either love me or hate me. Where did I put this event? Well, in my honest opinion, I place it higher than the Alien Revolution. Now, hear me out on this one. The reason why I did this was only because of the fact that the story was decent, the characters and items presented was pretty nice, the length of the event was a lot of time, and you got 2 freemium characters. They had no animation, sure, but they were useful for this event, and they clearly had some interesting animations when they were giants, so that's the only reason they got higher on that list. That, and the negatives, although being negative, I don't see as, like, if it was a pay-to-win, like, you needed this character in order to get everything, then, yeah, I would say that this was a pain. Like, you know what I mean. Like, it gives you an in-game advantage of sorts. I would have basically put this way lower, but because it doesn't, and because the item doesn't drop anything from the book, I can't really go, it's like a thing to kind of give you sense that it's stupid, but that's where I feel with this update. But you'll be happy to know that it did worse than the, Valentine's at Poison Lake, aka cringy Valentine's episode this year. Oh boy, why was this one better than the one we just experienced? Well, not only did I have fun with it, despite me cringing all the way and me kind of grinding my teeth with how awful I had to do the dialogue exchange, I will say that it didn't have much of a controversy. Put it into perspective. Ellie in the game, although costing 666 Goosebucks, is a permanent character in the game, and you at least can buy her with your Goosebucks that you add and you kind of can, like, get. Andy, you don't. You can't get her free. You gotta use it in a bundle. And again, Carly, in the third time, is locked behind a paywall. Her novelty shop was finally free to get, but not Carly. So that kind of sucked. So yeah, that's where it's placed. Can you tell where this has landed? Well, I hope you do, because that's it from me. So, that's the end of this whole review thing. What do you guys think at the end of the day? Do you agree with what I have to say? Do you agree with my list? Do you have any concerns? Do you think I suck? Like, do you think I'm a loser that he's like, no, you suck. It's supposed to be the worst one ever, you know? Let me know down below. I'd like to argue and have a civil conversation of what might be coming. But until then, I've been Grim, and I'll be seeing you next time for whatever Goosebumps HorrorTown playthrough comes in. So, until then, I will say simply this. Please, please, please be nice. That's all I ask.